Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to take you on this journey today. When we think about ghost stories, our minds usually jump straight to campfire scares or those late night horror movies. But today, we're looking way past the jump scares. We're going to dive right into the hidden sociological depths of Philippine folklore. Because as you'll see, these tales are so much more than just spooky myths. They're actually brilliant mirrors reflecting history, communal trauma, and a rapidly changing society.
To get us started, let me ask you kind of a jarring question. Just imagine this for a second. Would you eat fine French cuisine inside a notoriously haunted house? It sounds like a total contradiction, right? But it perfectly captures this strange, atmospheric intersection of the past and the present that we're unpacking today. Let's look at a real-world example of exactly what I mean.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the contrast. Take the infamous La Parelle White House in Baguio City. It was built out of beautiful Nara and Yakul wood back in the 1920s, originally serving as this quiet vacation home. But for decades, man, it was famous across the whole country for rumors of a white lady ghost just staring out its windows. A total staple of local horror. Fast forward to today, though. After being bought by a billionaire tycoon and undergoing massive renovations, the property's now Joseph's. Yep, an upscale restaurant serving contemporary French cuisine crafted by a Michelin star chef. This wild transition from a feared haunted house to a gentrified dining hotspot is literally the perfect lens for our first major theme. Section 1. History's Dark Echoes. We're going to explore how profound historical trauma and actual human tragedies birthed some of the country's most famous hauntings. You really can't talk about the sociology of haunted spaces without looking at the trauma that created them. Look at the incredibly layered, violent histories of two infamous dark tourism hotspots, Corregidor Island and the Diplomat Hotel in Baguio. Their timelines are strikingly similar. They both started as these peaceful retreats. Corregidor was an American military post, and the Diplomat was a quiet vacation home for American friars. But during World War II, everything changed. Both sites were violently taken over and turned into Japanese headquarters. They literally became epicenters for intense bombings, prolonged sieges, and massive human casualties. The occupying forces at the Diplomat Hotel even committed terrible acts of brutality before committing mass suicide as American forces bombed the building during liberation. So honestly, it's no wonder these specific locations birthed enduring legends of headless apparitions and phantom soldiers. The ghost stories here are quite literally history's dark echoes. Let's look at another famous example, but focusing on how a myth actually evolves structurally over time. Back in 1949, there was an actual documented tragic car crash involving a woman named Lenny Garchitorena on what was then called España Extension. But watch what happens next. By 1953, local rumors and later investigations suggest a reporter completely fabricated a white lady ghost story just to sell a magazine article. They essentially relocated the myth to a dark, bolete tree-lined street. Then, jump all the way to 2005. A barangay official literally proposed capitalizing on this exact myth to boost Halloween tourism with street parties. It is a textbook example of how a documented human tragedy gets sensationalized into an urban legend and, eventually, commodified by the community itself. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 2. Evolving the supernatural. It's time to pivot from campfire tales to the deep, sociological reasons behind these legends. To truly understand why these legends exist and adapt in the first place, we have to grasp the core concept of kaluluwa. In the pre-colonial, animist foundations of Filipino folklore, kaluluwa refers to the life spirit. And what's absolutely brilliant from a linguistic standpoint is that the word is a cognate of dalawa, which means two. This implies a duality, right? The idea that the spirit coexists not just with the physical body, but with the natural environment itself. Everything is connected in this really delicate balance. In this worldview, humans aren't the masters of the land. We're merely co-inhabitants, living alongside nature and unseen supernatural beings. And that brings us to a really fun conceptual juxtaposition. In traditional rural folklore, monsters are physically bound to the earth and the trees. You've got the aswang bound to the earth, the kapre living in massive trees, and the duende in soil mounds. But what happens with rapid urbanization? When forests get paved over, these mythologies have to adapt. I mean, you can't exactly have tree-dwelling giants in a concrete jungle, right? So instead, the spirits adapted to utilize technology. They haunt speeding cars, they communicate through telephones, or they start appearing in digital photographs. The folklore literally had to evolve to survive city life.
But you might be wondering, why does this folklore need to survive at all? Well, as scholars point out, these beliefs can be useful in embodying the content of education and can serve as an internalized brake on conduct. In sociological terms, that means ghost stories operate as a vital mechanism for social control. They enforce what's known as banal natakut, this deep reverence or fear. Back in the rural days, it stopped people from thoughtlessly destroying the environment because they didn't want to anger the nature spirits. In modern urban settings, it keeps people acting according to social norms, out of fear that a wrong spirit might seek supernatural revenge.
Let me bring this right to your doorstep for a second. Have you ever felt the urge to say tubby tubby bot to an empty space or a mound of earth? It roughly translates to asking for permission to pass safely. If you have, guess what? You are actively participating in this sociology. It completely cements that highly relatable human instinct to maintain harmony and apologize to unseen spirits. It proves that the animist respect for our environment is still very much hardwired into our modern behavior.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final point. Section 3, Reclaiming Haunted Spaces. Let's see how modern society is actively finding a new equilibrium. We've talked about how horrific tragedy creates ghosts, right? But modern urban development systematically gentrifies them. Take the ozone disco in Quezon City. It was the site of a horrific 1996 fire that claimed 162 lives, and for 19 years it stood as this burnt, tragic ruin. Today, it was totally demolished to make way for a branch of the Good Aha restaurant chain. Then there's the Cebu Detention Center. Rumored to be built on a 1980s mass grave, it was plagued with inmate deaths and creepy white lady sightings that actually required an exorcism. But eventually, it was transformed into Museo Sugbo, which is this fascinating political history museum. And finally, the Diplomat Hotel we discussed earlier, the site of all those WWI atrocities and decades of abandonment. It's been rebranded by the local government as the Dominican Heritage Hill and Nature Park. It's literally a favorite spot now for photography and wedding receptions. So, what is the crucial takeaway from all this? Simply put, folklore adapts, trauma transforms, the ghosts remain part of the developing community. Philippine ghost stories are not just silly scares that we outgrow as society modernizes. They're actually a living, breathing, evolving mechanism of communal memory. They are a way for society to process horrific historical trauma and a psychological tool to maintain a deep-seated respect for our surroundings, even as concrete completely replaces the forests.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. As our cities continue to rapidly pave over the past, displacing the old belief trees and burying historical sites of tragedy under shiny new restaurants and museums, where will our ghosts move next? They've already moved from the forests to our cars and our phones, so what is their next frontier? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the world around you, and we'll catch you on the next one.